You're listening to a podcast by the Perennial Leader Project. Welcome back to Dying Every Day, Stoicism in a Year. We've made it to day 12, and to the question, what does it mean to have enough? In a letter to Lucilius, Seneca talked about the notion of what we deem to be, quote, good. He wrote, "Suppose you regard wealth as a good. Poverty will distress you, and, worst of all, it will be an imaginary poverty. However much you may have, still, because someone has more, you will feel that you fall short to the extent he is ahead. You consider official position a good. This man being made a consul will vex you, or that one's being reappointed. And you will be envious whenever you see another's name appearing frequently on the list of office holders. Such is the madness of ambition, that you will feel you have come in last if anyone is ahead of you." And this passage is adapted from On Care of Health and Peace of Mind. Seneca and the Stoics were way ahead of their time regarding understanding human nature. Philosophical and spiritual traditions, as well as modern research, suggest that we tend to desire what doesn't actually bring us happiness. You've probably heard of terms like the hedonic treadmill, which you could read about in Dan Gilbert's book, Stumbling on Happiness, or more recently, the term status games in Will Storr's book, The Status Game. Interestingly, when we know what is enough and believe we are enough, life becomes much easier and less about ourselves. The ancient Greek philosopher Plutarch observed, "He who has more than enough and yet hungers for still more will find no remedy in gold or silver or horses, but in casting out the source of mischief and being purged. For his ailment is not poverty, but insatiability." Consider reflecting or journaling about what it actually means to have enough. As I mentioned previously, it's important to remember that Stoicism is a philosophy of life. This means that it's a way of living or a set of perspectives, principles, and practices that work in harmony with one another. For example, the art of having enough requires clarity and self-discipline. We might discover greater clarity from practicing the view from above, discussed in day 10, or by conquering ourselves, which we discussed back on day 3. As we navigate this year together, consider reflecting periodically on how these ideas and others might work together in your daily life. Thank you for listening to Dying Every Day, Stoicism in a Year. I hope you found something useful for daily life. If you enjoy what we're doing here and want to support the project, consider becoming a Perennial Meditations member. And finally, as always, I urge you to put what you heard into practice. Until next time, be wise and be well.